What's going on, my fellow Jedi and Padawans? Welcome back to another Jedi gaming video. Thank you guys so much for coming back to the channel, and if you guys are new, welcome. Happy Iron Banner week to all y'all that have been grinding out trials, since we just had about 8 or 9 in a row if my memory serves. So take some time, chill out in Iron Banner with Lord Salad Man. Get yourself this god roll, Tusk of the Boar, which is a wave frame kinetic strand grenade launcher, which if you follow the channel and me at all, you know I'm a big old nerd. I love wave frames so much. Definitely one of my top archetypes just in the game in general. So we're going to cover the god rolls for this weapon, mostly for the PvE side of things, but there are a couple different things you could throw on if you're taking it into the Crucible. Before we get into that god rolls, we are going to go over to 2 origin traits that we have on this, which first off is a field tested. Defeating targets or dealing damage with this weapon gradually increases range stability, handling, and reload speed. So that is a bunch of our different stats as we're doing damage or defeating targets, which this thing is going to be an ad clear maniac inside of the PvE realm. Now on the other side of it, we have Skulking Wolf, which comes on our Iron Banner weapons. While at low health, Guardian Final Blows with this weapon grant us enhanced radar as well as remove us from the opposing radar. So it is a sneaky little origin trait, kind of specifically for the Crucible, so totally up to you depending on which one you would want to use. Definitely would use field tested in the PvE realm. PvP, totally up to you between Skulking Wolf and then field tested. So starting us off for the PvP side of things, I'm going to go with Quick Access Sling for our weapon mod. Basically gives us a little bit more handling, since with this you're going to be using it kind of to throw it on the ground, hot swap to a hand cannon pulse rifle, something like that, and just get a one tap with those. So I would go with Quick Access for your mod for PvP. Now with the way that this thing is built out, blast radius is already at 100, so I threw on velocity as our masterwork, giving us 84 in the velocity slot with 80 almost in the reload and 64 in the handling. So this thing pretty quick and handy for the Crucible to switch on and off of. Now in the first column for our barrels right here, we got 2 different options. First one is this volatile launch, which gives us that plus 15 in the blast radius, minus 5 in velocity, minus 5 in handling, which allows us to have that 100 on the blast radius. Definitely one of the great options. Second on the list here is Linear Compensator, the jack of all trades, if you will, with stability, velocity, and blast radius, getting plus 5 for this barrel here. Now in the second column, we only have 2 choices, so totally up to you. I personally would go with high velocity rounds for velocity and reload in both PvP as well as PvE. The second option right here, which I will only cover this once just because, like I said, I think the other in high velocity is a little bit better. We have implosion rounds, gives us plus 10 to velocity, 15 to stability, but it does take down our blast radius by 10, so I just like having that at 100 no matter if I'm going into PvP or PvE. Now in the third column, we got 2 different options. Slideways is our first one. Sliding partially refills the magazine and temporarily boosts our handling and stability. You can see we get that 15% refresh, so this is just going to be one single bullet, if you will, or grenade with 22 stability and 20 in handling. Feels crispy in the Crucible. The second option is Pulse Monitor. It'll automatically reload itself when we are wounded and have improved handling. So you can see we get 50 in handling plus that 5% ready and stow speed when we are under 38 in the shield. So it is a pretty nice thing to have on for hot swapping on and off of it. Plus it's like an auto loading basically when you get hurt, like it says, even if it's stowed. Now in the fourth column, we got 2 options. I think this one could work pretty well with chain reaction. Each final blow creates an elemental explosion, so similar to if you're using it in 6s might be kind of nice. Maybe not as good in 3s, but with the domination or capture the point, if you will, not a bad perk to have on. If you get one of those defeats, everybody's just gonna explode. With the other option, in my personal opinion, being Vorpal Weapon right here. Increased damage against those guardians in the super, so you can see we get about a 10 to 20% increase in PvP for those special weapons, which is what this is. So a totally viable option. I would think I would go with Chain Reaction and Pulse Monitor on this. It just feels like the best combination of perks for the 3rd and 4th, but Slideways is a golden child in my opinion for the Crucible realm, so totally up to you. Very good roll in my opinion if you're using it for that little throw it at the ground, jump up, hot swap to a hand cannon, something like that, shoot it out. A pretty solid little weapon here. Now, when we move on to the PvE side of things, we're going to have a couple different rolls for the 3rd and 4th columns for y'all, but we're starting off with Major Spec, giving us that 8% increased damage to Majors, which is those Champions mini bosses, so a very good little mod to have on. Not using this as much for that DPS on bosses, and it's going to clear out rank and file red bars easily, so I would throw on Major Spec for sure. Now, just like we had inside of the Crucible realm, we are going to go with Velocity on this. You could go with Reload, but this thing is already juiced out at 80 almost for Reload, plus some of the perks that we're going to have on, specifically one of them in the 3rd column is going to kind of negate Reload anyways, so I went with Velocity in the Masterwork. Now, taking it to the barrels here, like I said for PvP, definitely want this thing at 100 blast radius no matter what you're taking it into, either or. So I went with Volatile Launch as our first option for that barrel with plus 15 to blast radius. We do have minus 5 to handling and velocity, but we are still stacked at 85 on velocity, 100 on blast radius, so that's all that really matters in my personal opinion. Now, the other option you could go with if you wanted is Confined Launch, plus 10 to blast radius, plus 15 to stability, minus 10 to velocity. We're still at 80 in the velocity, a little bit better handling at 40, with the blast radius still at 100 because its base is super high, so we only need plus 10. But I think I still like the other card compensator in these first barrel even better. In the 2nd column, like I stated with PvP side of things, we're going to go with high velocity rounds, giving us that velocity and reload, just juicing the reload up to 80 feels right for this, especially with having 80 in the velocity as well, especially if you go with something like the other barrel that takes away some of that speed for us. We're going to get it right back with this magazine. Now, for me, in the 3rd column, there are 2 different options. First off is this Envious Assassin, which I was talking about, that negates the reload speed that we have at 80. This Envious Assassin right here, defeating targets with other weapons before drawing, transfers ammo from the magazine's reserves to the barrel. So you can overflow this magazine depending on the targets that you defeat beforehand, and we're basically able to get 3 or 4, I believe, inside of the grenade launcher, which is a pretty high compared to something like Ambitious Assassin, where we're only getting 2 of those. So it is a very interesting little thing that they have in this 3rd column for this weapon. The 2nd option is a Slice, which plays more towards the Strand synergy. After casting our class ability, allows this weapon to sever targets on a hit to a maximum number of targets. So like 3 or 4 targets are going to get that sever to hit them, which is kind of nice because sever is a very good strand verb debuff, if you will call it that, and I think it is a great strand synergy, but I do think Envious Assassin is the S tier perk in this column. And finally, in this 4th column right here, we got a couple different options that I think are slapping. First off is Chain Reaction, so we get that nice strand explosion on all of those elemental defeats. It'll pair beautifully with both Sever as well as Envious Assassin, getting just strand explosions or Sever literally everywhere with the combination of either of those. So definitely going to be on the list for the grind with Chain Reaction. The 2nd option is a Hatchling. We'll play a little bit more into the add, clear, or strand synergy, if you will, especially if you're on something like that Swarm or Warlock, getting those precision final blows, which won't happen with this weapon, but the rapid defeats with the weapon will spawn us threadlings at the target. So this with Envious Assassin or the Slice and Sever is going to be absolutely nasty for creating a bunch of strand debuffs and strand tangles, strand threadlings everywhere on the map. Now, personally, not 100% sure how I feel about bait and switch on this, but with Envious Assassin, think it could be pretty nice because we're going to have 3 or 4 of those grenades in there. But with having this at an 80 reload speed, getting that 35% increase in damage for the 10 seconds after we hit a target with each of our weapons will be pretty nice, and I think we will be able to get a pretty good amount of those ammo down lane for the 10 seconds since our reload is so high. But this perk on this grenade launcher still hasn't fully convinced me. I like the other two a little bit better, but this might be a sleeper S tier perk. And last but certainly not least, you could go with the old trusty dusty swashbuckler. Think it would be last on the list for me, but you can see stacking up that damage with a melee kill all the way up to 5 or multiple defeats with this weapon gives us that 33% damage increase up at stack 5, so it is a very good PvE perk. So hopefully this week you and the Salad Man can get in there to Iron Banner, grind out the ranks, get yourself some good rolls of all of the weapons from Iron Banner here, specifically a Tusk of the Boar. So appreciate all you guys for coming back to the channel, means a lot to me. Don't be afraid to like and subscribe. The video helps out the channel a bunch, as well as hit that bell if you would like. Give it the old slap-a-rooney so you don't miss out on any of the videos that we put out. God roll guides, builds for our characters, as well as sprinkling in that Pal World content as well, with new updates coming out periodically. So appreciate all you guys again. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.